The Foetid Bloat Drone costs around $60 MSRP, and he has 3 weapon loadouts that are all viable in the current codex. The Bloat Drone is a strong model, and it's not uncommon to run 3 of them in a 2,000 point army. If you want to access 3 of each weapon loadout, you would need to buy 9 Bloat Drones, which totals to around $540, which is the cost of almost 4 combat patrols. In this video, I'm going to show you how to magnetize this shrimpy guy, so you only have to buy 3, saving you and me $360, which could be spent towards gathering other models like Mortarion himself, or even the newest Death Guard Combat Patrol.
Nice.
Before you start, you're going to need to sub-assemble your model like I have done on screen. All weapons are assembled, the flesh mower is glued to one arm, the main body is assembled aside from the left and right engines, and the face cover is off. You don't have to magnetize the face covers, but having the extra options is nice. This leaves the inside of the model exposed, so there's room to place our magnets. So what do you need to do this? First, you need some thick paper clips. Mine are 50mm. You need something to cut those paper clips with, a hobby knife, and a hobby drill. For the drill bit, you want something that's the same size as the paper clips, and it's easy to visually measure this by touching the ends of the drill bit and the paper clip together. If you don't have the exact size, it's better to go slightly larger than smaller so you don't have to force the paper clip into the plastic. For magnets, I'm using a value box that I got from Amazon. The thicker the magnet, the better. Thin magnets don't really have that strong attraction. You'll need milliput as well. You can also use green stuff, but milliput is cheaper and easier to get from Hobby Lobby. Lastly, you're going to need some super glue. For the first step, I had to prepare my paper clips. I took my hobby knife and rolled it on the paperclip and then used my fingernail to strip off the rubber encasing. Not all paperclips have these, but if yours do, I would recommend doing this so the magnet is in direct contact with the metal on the paperclip. There you go. After that, the next thing to do was to drill the hole to set the paperclip in. I'm using the corner of my knife to mark where I want the hole to be and then carefully aligning the hobby drill to make sure that the drill bit is going in level. Now, depending on how high quality your drill bit is, this step can take either a long or a little time. This is a pretty low quality drill bit, so it doesn't cut the plastic as fast. Throughout this process, I'm constantly measuring how far I'm going into the plastic. You don't need to go that far in because we're going to use super glue to hold the pin in place. See, it has a thicker section up top and then it goes thinner down here. So you don't actually need to go super far in here. So this is how far in I'm in. I think I'll just go a little bit more and then I'll call this part done. After you've drilled the hole, it's good to test fit your paper clip before you glue it, just to make sure that it fits correctly. I like to bend the paper clip into an L shape so it's easier to rotate the pin around while you're doing this. This makes sure that the paper clip is going all the way into the plastic bit so you have a nice strong connection. After that, it's just a matter of adding a tiny bit of super glue. You really don't need a lot, and then gluing the pin into place. I'm going to push it in and use that L shape to get it as far in as it can go. Now, the heavy blight launcher is a little bit more complicated because it has a tube that wraps around the back. The tube is too small to embed a magnet in it, and it has this weird L-shaped joint. So I decided that I should just put a small pin to connect these two halves together. On the piece with the longer tube, I drilled a hole on the lower portion of the L-shaped joint as close to center as I could get it, and then I glued a tiny pin inside. On the other piece, I then drilled a hole on the raised section where the pin touched the shortened tube if I pushed the two pieces together. This should go here like that. And I've already started on the hole. So I just need to drill that hole in as far as I can, and then it should just slide on. As you can see, even without a magnet, the pin holds these two sections together quite well. After wrapping up the heavy blight launcher, I just had to drill holes and place the pins in the other two weapon loadouts the same way that I did for the arm pieces on the blight launcher. So I've got all my pins in. You can see Every single weapon option now has a pin super glue. Holes have to be drilled in the connecting sockets on the body of the bloat drone. For these holes, I'm using a slightly larger drill bit. It's a 1/16 size from a regular drill set. Depending on your pin placement in each arm, you might actually need to widen the holes in the connecting sockets on the bloat drone's body so that the arms can fit snugly into the socket. So make sure to test fit each weapon loadout when you do this. Not bad at all. Repeat this process on the other side and then cut down the pins to size. I used a marker to add a mark on the spot where I wanted to cut the pins. For length, I wanted to keep the pins as long as possible, but not so long that they cross at the top. This made sure that there's plenty of metal for the magnets to attract. Of course, I repeated this step for each weapon option. After getting everything sized up, I then moved on to setting the magnets. I first took some equal parts of the green and yellow milliput sticks and kneaded these together. What you see in the video is all of the milliput I used for this project. When kneading together the milliput, I kept my fingers slightly wet to help it not stick to my skin, and I just had to work the putty for a couple of minutes before it was fully mixed. After getting everything fully mixed, you have around 1.5 hours of working time before it starts to get a little difficult to work with. I started by filling in the body bit by bit, and while I was doing this, I was constantly measuring the gap between the pins and the milliput wall that I was building. I was going for something where when the pins are inside the body, they would fit flush against this wall of milliput. It was now time to place the magnets. Initially, I wanted to use only 2 magnets, but placing 2 magnets like this with metal tweezers was proving to be quite difficult, and having only 2 magnets may not create as strong of a connection as I would have liked. I ended up going with 4 magnets in a square shape. This ended up being much easier to place than 2 magnets. Once you get the magnets placed, you have to press them into the milliput and then start test fitting all of the different weapon loadouts. I had to spend quite a bit of time figuring out the exact placement of the magnets. If they were too far forward, they made the weapons tilt down. If they were too far back, they made the weapons tilt up. Thankfully, milliput takes a long time to dry, so I had a lot of time here to really figure out where exactly I wanted the magnets to be placed. After getting all the weapons situated, I turned my attention to the face plates. This was much easier. I just packed milliput in the upper section of the faceplate and pressed a large magnet into the putty. For the body, I did the same, but before placing the magnet in this section, I triple checked the magnet polarity to make sure that the attracting sides were facing each other. Make sure you test fit each face option before you let the putty dry. The putty and magnet should be recessed into the faceplate because the edges of the armor overlap with the body of the bloat drone. After that, it was cleanup time. I used the back of a paintbrush to press down the milliput around the magnets and then used a hobby knife to slice out sections of milliput that were not needed. The reason for this was that having so much milliput in the model was making the model pretty heavy, and I wanted to make it a little bit lighter so that it wouldn't have any issues standing on its base. The last thing I did was magnetize the flesh mower. This was a little bit tricky. I used a larger drill bit to clear out the raised ring within the connecting arm. I also had to use a hobby knife to clear out debris and try and smooth this section as best as I could. After getting that in a good spot, I then placed 2 very small magnets in the center and glued these down with super glue. After getting those situated, I clipped off the nub on the end of the flesh mower and then spent quite a bit of time filing this down before gluing a magnet to the end of it. The magnet I used was quite a bit larger than the 2 little magnets, and I did that so it would have a strong attraction. This step was not something that I had originally planned on doing. Originally, I thought that the nub would be good enough to hold the flesh mower in place, but I'm glad I took this extra step because the flesh mower is quite front heavy and this step made it much more secure. And this is me the morning after shake testing all of the different configurations, and I'm blown away with how strong this turned out. I'm shaking the model here pretty vigorously and nothing is moving, even the flesh mower, which is pretty front heavy. I think it's because the magnets and pins work together with the way that the plastic pieces are molded to fit together, but This is definitely a great way to magnetize your Foetid Bloat Drone. It's not too difficult. I think once you do it once, you'll be able to do it much faster the next time you do it. It saves a lot of money, and you can use that money to buy other Death Guard models, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So that's it for this video. I hope that you found this helpful. If you want to stay tuned for more of my videos, make sure you subscribe, and I hope to catch you in the comment section. Let's go.